all for coming.
Oh, sorry. Maybe I'll just yell. Thank you all for coming. I think this is a huge turnout. And the AAUW branch sponsors this along with the Wilson Library. And the Town Hall Theater has been gracious enough to let us have guided tours and use the space. If you have not signed in as you came in, please do, so that we have a count of how many people came. And so that if you would like to put your email address down, we will send you information about other events that we have. AAUW, American Association of University Women, has been advocating for girls and women since 1881. The Middlebury branch was formed in 1921. So it has been here for And AAUW is one of the largest sources of funding for graduate women, for fellowships, for grants. In the 23-24 academic year, they awarded over $6 million for 285 awardees. Wow. There's a lot. The Middlebury branch has monthly meetings from September to May. At the beginning and the end, we have potlucks primarily for members, but then we do events like this, presentations or suggested things to talk about or see. We also do women's postgraduate education fundraiser, which is our raffle. It's our only fundraiser of the year. So we raise money with raffle items that are donated by the members. Let me see what else. Oh, we give awards to high school students for excellence in language, science, and the arts. Actually, we have a fourth one. What's the fourth one? Afghanistan. I don't remember. We have four. And we support the Afghan girls who are attending Middlebury College. So we do a lot of stuff. AAUW does a lot of stuff. And if you would like to join us, men and women, everyone is welcome. So now, Lisa Mitchell is going to talk to us about the arts in, is it in Middlebury or in Vermont?
Vermont.
Okay, that's what I thought. And she's the executive and artistic director of Town Hall Theater. She directs the programming, operations, marketing, fundraising, event management, all the hats, everything. And leads a talented team of theater professionals. She brings experience as a multidisciplinary arts and event producer and communications professional. I'm sorry, I haven't got this memorized. She specializes in bringing diverse cross-sections of the community together around unique shared experiences. At the state level, she represents Addison and Rutland counties, so she's a busy person, on the Vermont Arts Council's Creative Network. She also co-founded and is artistic director of Middlebury Underground, an arts and culture nonprofit offering a series of creative and inclusive events. She has served and held leadership roles in a range of boards. At the national level, so we keep going up, Lisa produced a multi-market nationwide event tours for Condé Nast, Gourmet, Bon Appetit, and CBS Radio. She also led a communications division for a Mad Men style firm in DC, owned by Burson Marsteller, and parlayed these skills to later run her own marketing communication shops, LDM Writing and Epicurean PR. She received her undergraduate degree from Harvard, studying creative writing. Boy, I'm not sure you get from creative writing to doing all the things that she does. Okay. Visual arts and theater. She lives in Middlebury with her husband Andy and her two sons Jake and Billy. And now I'll turn it over to Lisa.
No worries, sorry. All good. I don't have it memorized. for joining us this evening. It was so much fun to give you tours through this new wing, and I hope you enjoyed what you saw. This is a work in progress. You're one of the early folks to actually get a sneak peek of these spaces. Please keep coming back so that you see them developing. And also save the date for our grand opening, which will be on June 27th and 28th, which will include the whole building, the new public plaza, all types of things. It's going to be fabulous. I'm really honored to be here today with all of you, and I give a big thanks to the Middlebury chapter of the American Association of University Women and everyone involved who put this event together. I think I was very well introduced, so I don't really need to do that. But kind of starting with I just want to give a little nod to the Vermont Arts Council and also the Vermont Creative Network, which have messages and sort of a role in aspects of this presentation. So starting with the Vermont Arts Council, it's a state arts agency, independent nonprofit. It's the primary funder for the arts in Vermont, and essentially the NEA funding that comes to the state comes through them. And the Arts Council really believes in the arts that arts transform lives, they connect people, they energize our economy, they sustain vibrancy to make Vermont a great place to live, work, and visit. And there are all types of grants which are shown here. And then the Vermont Creative Network is sort of a program under the umbrella that I represent. So the Vermont Creative Network is divided into 6 zones statewide, so there are other people like me who are involved. And our priorities are advocacy, research, and networking, and really connecting with every aspect of the creative sector, whether you are an enterprise, an individual, an organization, and there are cards actually out there on the table that say Vermont Creative Network that have info if you want to get involved and sign up for those lists. But appropriately, the VCN's vision for the state, and one of the things I like to highlight, which ties into this presentation, is that arts, culture, and creativity are essential Vermont infrastructure. And I absolutely believe that to be true. And so this is when I started, about a little over 5 years ago. This is what it looked like here at Town Hall Theater. This was the former diner, and then fast forward to today and where we are. And so I want to talk a little bit about transformation and the fact that transformation is really in Town Hall Theater's DNA. The original building has been here since 1884. It's lived so many amazing lives, and as you all probably know, had an incredible resurgence and reopening in 2008, thanks to our founder, Doug Anderson, and many, many hardworking volunteers. But this is the transformation chapter that I've been a part of and that I'm really excited about. And to sort of back up to sort of the beginning of when I was here, you know, about 2 weeks after I started, 2-3 weeks, the pandemic hit. And I thought we'd be closed for 2-3 weeks. We kind of sent that message out, and everyone thought they'd have a nice little holiday, and that's not what happened. We were closed for 15 months. Most of our staff was laid off. It was a tough time, but Town Hall Theater and so many other organizations rallied, and that's sort of more what I want to focus on. We launched a virtual series called the Quarantine Sessions that had something like 50 episodes that was artists in their homes who were just performing one piece in whatever their discipline was that were going straight into other people's homes, and it had an insane number of views. And it was in the early days when folks were in lockdown and just really needing that. We also did an outdoor sculpture project, and some of those sculptures still live in town. This is the one by the Mad Taco by the Stone Mill. And there are other people who were involved with Town Hall Theater who also decided they were just gonna embrace it. So Opera Company of Middlebury decided to do a feature-length opera film in which in our theater they put up a green screen, they brought in opera singers, and they did Candide. And then they sent it out to everyone. So there was just incredible innovation. And then additionally, whoops, let's go back. What we really found is that, boy, people really need the arts and they need the connection it brings. And we did a lot of outdoor performances, both theater and concerts in fields all over the place. And that we would put tickets on sale and they would sell out in a matter of hours. And We would be painting pods in fields. It was like the most insane time to be presenting, but everybody desperately still needed an outlet in that connection. We also were really fortunate at that time to win a digital capacity grant, kind of on the sort of toward the tail end of the pandemic, and that allowed us to create a county-wide website called addisonarts.org that is still going strong, and arts and culture events from every single organization in the area, in the county, are posted to that, and we are sort of the back end supporting it, and that grant allowed us to do that. We also were able to install a 4-camera video system in the theater, which allowed us to capture performances, interviews, get behind the scenes information from directors, and that continues to go on to this day. And then we even did, one of my favorite things was a traveling medicine show on a stage that went to Buttolph Acres, it went to Eastview, it had an amazing equity actor and a professional musician. And just to hit on the emotional impact of the arts, and particularly in tough times, I like to share one of my favorite notes that came after that show from a resident of Buttolph Acres, which said, "During the pandemic, many of us reach for the arts for comfort, to think in a different way, or simply to keep us entertained. Yet this show really blew me away. It spoke to me on a very personal level, and I did not see it coming. When the doctor asked the audience if we were depressed, discombobulated, felt dislocated, I found myself screaming, 'Yes!' I mean, those words escaped my mouth with a vengeance that really surprised me. Someone put into words what I'd been feeling when he talked about our community, that we had actually all come out to see something, that we were together. My eyes teared up, and for the first time since mid-March, I actually had hope." So why am I talking about the pandemic, a time that everyone would probably rather just forget about? I'm talking about it because it was a catalyst for transformation. It shook all arts organizations to their core, and it challenged us to do things differently, to connect in new and innovative ways. And it really also underscored to me the public's voracious appetite for the arts and the connection and learning that comes through it. It felt to me that the arts was something that many had taken for granted, including myself, until availability became scarce, and then it was prized and it was cherished. And the pandemic also emphasized the crucial importance of collaboration. I was, borrowing from Scott Bourne at the rec center, the field painter, to spray paint fields with my husband, who's over there behind Woodchuck Cider, who loaned us the space for the concert. And we were all doing that for each other, and that's a spirit that we've continued to take into every season since. So the other wonderful thing that happened during the pandemic is we started dreaming about our future here. And it started with what are the town hall theater's needs, and it quickly evolved into how could these spaces really be serving the local community, the region, and the state? What do they need? And in response, working with Breadloaf Corporation, we designed an outdoor public plaza with access and vibrancy top of mind. It's called the Maloney Plaza. It is an outdoor stage that this summer will hold a season's worth of free arts programming thanks to a grant. And we charted a course for a new learning engagement center, which you saw downstairs, multiplying the diversity and volume of our education programming and adding so much more for adults at the same time. And we designed a scene shop that's 2 levels down that you might have spied, and that also will house technical education. And we of course created the Anderson Studio, where we are, which is named after our founder and his wonderful wife Debbie, and the Jean's Place Lounge and Bar. And throughout the design, we really sought to create an accessible and welcoming spaces that are flexible and that they can change with the times and the community's needs and their wishes. And as always, we had an incredible team who dreamed this together. Some of those folks are in this room, and we all worked hard to make it a reality. Kind of skipping a little bit to some data, and there's a great study that came out called the Arts and Economic Prosperity Study. It's focused on 2022 surveys, focused on arts and culture nonprofits and for-profits. And a quick snapshot, overwhelmingly, when people were asked about arts and culture in the state of Vermont, they say that they were feeling an inspiring sense of pride in their neighborhood and community community being affiliated with the arts organization that they were participating in, that they would feel a great sense of loss if this activity or venue was no longer available, and that really this place was an important pillar for them within the community, wherever they were taking the study. Hitting on sort of how art helps, and also these things really dovetail into our programming and our vision for the future of Town Hall Theater. And it's that the arts cultivate lifelong learning and emotional growth. Our Seligman Center for Learning and Engagement downstairs is doing just that. That it develops community connection and alleviates isolation and aids mental health and creates a sense of belonging. And we've had some very specific programming, including a program called The Stranger's Case, which we brought in last fall. And it started with a workshop that was everyone was invited, it was free, and it was an exploration into migration, belonging, and the equity actors who came and led it then created an actual short play from those stories, and it was incredibly powerful and meaningful. The arts also create a really important forum for addressing complex issues and finding common ground. And I have two examples of this. One was in the pandemic with Middlebury Acting Company, which was, we did a series called American Dreaming, and it focused on a series of plays that really explored race and inequity in America and led to some very deep discussions and exploration on those themes. We also, right after the election, with Middlebury College, with their expertise, led something called Good Talks, and it was a post-election reflection about a week after the election results came out. And what I will say is that I was pretty nervous going into that event, and there really were folks of all political leanings, backgrounds, everything, and it was phenomenal. I walked away from that event feeling like, if this can happen here, why can't it happen elsewhere? You know, it was a really, really well developed. So those are some of the ways that the arts help, and these things feed into kind of our mission and priorities at Town Hall Theater. That what we're doing here is that we're more than a building, we're a cultural anchor for Addison County and beyond. We are a shared resource for artists, nonprofits, businesses, educators now and for generations to come. We're a destination that unites a diverse cross-section of our community, and we are always striving to be an inclusive and welcoming space for everyone. One of my favorite things about this, being in Middlebury specifically, is many things, but one of them is starting with our town plan. We actually have a town plan that gives arts and culture an entire chapter, and that's not common in many towns, and it should be. And our town plan says that we want more destination events, and that people want more outdoor gathering spaces, and that they understand that arts and culture are an economic driver, and that we need to continue to lean into that, which is phenomenal. But we also, it's like, look around, we are such a culturally rich community, and look at all these women who are leading, right? Like we've got, it's phenomenal. So, Rises of Kelly from the Mahaney Arts Center, Sadie Danforth from the Middlebury Community Music Center, Sarah Briggs from the Middlebury Studio School, Coco Mosley from the Henry Sheldon, Dana Hart at the Elsa Library, and many more, and then also all of these arts and culture nonprofits like the Opera Company in Middlebury Acting Company, the New Filmmakers Festival, that all have strong female leadership too involved. So it's really it's a pretty powerful place to be for the arts. So strengthening Vermont's creative economy strengthens the overall economy, and that is a fact, and the data backs it up. Looking nationally, that same study I mentioned earlier, we have $151 billion in economic activity related to nonprofit arts and culture organizations nationwide, over $73 billion in spending by organizations, millions of jobs, $29 billion in tax revenue, and people overwhelmingly stress that the arts and culture are important to their community, quality of life and livability, and 72% agreed that arts and culture provides shared experiences with people of different races, ethnicities, ages, and beliefs. And And the bottom line here is that when we support the arts, we are investing in economic and community well-being. In terms of economic impact in Vermont, what does that mean specifically? So the sector generated over $158 million in 2022, over $103 million in spending by the arts. The economic activity supported thousands of jobs and over $112 million in income and lots of tax revenue. And you know, I think folks sometimes tend to forget that nonprofit arts and cultural organizations are businesses. We employ people, we buy supplies and services from local businesses, we market and promote in media like the Addison Independent. We are very much a part of the economic ecosystem. And our act of doing business, creating, presenting, exhibiting, engaging, has a positive economic impact and improves community well-being. With the arts and culture sector also drives commerce to local businesses. We've 1.4 million attendees to arts and culture events to Vermont nonprofits alone. 75% of those attendees were local, 25% were not local. And when people attend a cultural event, they make an outing of it. You know, they have dinner, they shop. There's a lot of additional spending that's happening in a community. And on average, statewide attendees spend about $35 per person per event beyond the cost of admission when they come to town. This is actually more so for the visitor economy. I don't know if you remember the eclipse and what that was like around here. That was pretty crazy and wonderful. There's an innkeeper who said to me, "Could we just have an eclipse over here?" So 25% of attendees are non-local visitors, and I guess the majority of people reported that the primary purpose of their visit to Vermont was specifically to attend a performance, event, exhibit, venue, or facility. So arts and culture organizations are the destination in many, many cases. And these folks are also spending a good deal of money and obviously more on lodging and things like that. So just to add another study to the mix so you don't think I'm just focused on one study, the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, and this is a little bit better data for Vermont in terms of essentially the $1.2 billion of contribution and more than 10,000 jobs. It's frankly a better number than the other study, so we like that one better. But this doesn't diminish the value of the other study, which had really good data around the spending and habits of folks. So at the local level, when we kind of focus in, like, how does this play to Town Hall Theater and its expansion, for example? So we're expanding our programming, and that does have a ripple effect across the community, across the region. We are growing local jobs. We already have added quite a lot of jobs in anticipation of this continued growth. And in terms of the local payoff, based on that earlier data I shared, we're bringing $1.6 million annually in economic impact from patron activity downtown and the surrounding area, which is huge. So I have a sort of mentor, someone I really respect, named Jody Freed, who's the executive director of the Catamount Center for the Arts. And something he said in a meeting in the last year kind of really stuck with me. And it's that the arts really need to help solve complex issues, and that if we don't do that, we risk becoming irrelevant. And so I'd like to give a few examples of projects that do that in different areas of the state. So this is in Brattleboro. There's a downtown redevelopment at High Street and Green, and it's a project that's dedicated to creating a vibrant and multi-use hub for creativity right downtown. This is in St. Johnsbury, and it is a project that is really addressing the housing issue in a very creative way. So they're combining artist studios with housing needs as well in this newly developed space, and that's bringing a lot of energy downtown. And then the Stitch Together project in Winooski is one that's building bonds that strengthen communities, and it's a project where refugee women from East Africa gather to learn knitting skills and make community connections. With all of these good things, I have to say, you know, you've seen some headlines. It's not just the performing arts industry that's facing challenges. Even before the current election, we have been facing challenges. And so, you know, JAG Theater, which was in Southern Vermont and receiving all kinds of acclaim and awards, folded last spring. And, you know, the board, what they said was that the pandemic revealed the precarity of the arts in the wider world. And then, you know, the arts have had some trouble rebounding from the pandemic for a variety of reasons. And Senator Welch worked on a bill called the Stage Act, which Town Hall Theater endorsed among many other organizations. And the Stage Act would have created funding for nonprofit performing arts centers all across the nation to ensure sustainability. And this might sound crazy, but this is how it's done in the UK. So when I go there and I talk to people who are running theaters, they think it's crazy that performing arts centers here are supposed to make it on the meager earned revenue and donations alone, and that there isn't a regular federal subsidy. But this bill is no longer. So, but you know, the pandemic changed people's habits. Some people choose to stream over live performance or just not come out as much. And federal funding is in jeopardy, not just for us, for lots of folks. There's a fear of censorship from different mandates that are coming down, but also just self-censorship. The comment that the Arts Council made recently was that if grants are essentially saying that you can't be putting forth a project that promotes DEI, then people might choose not to apply for that. And that's sort of a form of self-censorship. And then of course there are economic conditions, the cost of inflation, stock market, et cetera. And then just, you know, with that, there's pressures on donating. So there's all those things. But with all that said, Town Hall Theater has always prided itself on being more than a theater. That's kind of like our unofficial tagline. And this flexibility has helped us stay relevant and connected. And, you know, we are not immune from these issues, but we're working really hard. So, with regard to, you know, why do the arts matter today? It's because the arts are a cultural hub and home. They are a social and emotional connector. They are, you know, a center for learning and engagement. They're providing pathways to professions, and an example of this is like Town Hall Theater actually has had some incredible people come up who've gone on to professional careers. Hadley Robinson was in the George Clooney movie Boy in the Boat. She started here. The woman who's the education director of the Alvin Ailey Dance Company worked here. Jana Keel, who's in the Diplomat, and Hannah also started here in our youth programs. And we're working even more now to create these professional pathways for young people and adults, actually, to get more experience in the performing arts and also to develop skills that can be applicable to other industries too. And of course, we're an economic driver and create downtown vibrancy. So what can you do to help? This is, by the way, our long-term amazing volunteer, Walt Deverell. And we love Walt. And so what you can do to help not just style theater, but the arts in general survive and thrive is, you know, attend a show or take a class. Spread the word. When you see something you like, tell your friends about it. That's like that sort of grassroots marketing is actually our best marketing. Become a member or a monthly sustaining supporter if you can. It could be like a $5 a month, like cup of coffee kind of thing. Volunteer if you're able. You know, just appreciate the arts and understand both the promise and the struggles. And I think I'd say that we get emails and notes sometimes about things that we're doing here. We read them aloud at staff meeting. It's like the best thing in the world. And so we really appreciate that too. And I'm sure others do as well. So to start concluding, you know, transformation and sustainability is a collaborative effort. I feel very fortunate to live in Vermont. I feel very fortunate to live in Middlebury. I believe in this community and big ideas, and that this small town can pull them off. And also, I have a piece of good news, which is that Vermont recently ranked as the 13th highest arts vibrancy state in the country. So we're doing it. And thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to take questions. Yeah.
I want to make a comment.
Yes.
I used to be a principal of a school that had 45% kids living at home.
Yes.
Can you repeat the
You'll have to
question?
repeat.
I can repeat it back. Yeah.
And what I found is the kids who struggled the most, who were the poorest, who were in emotional issues, they would be the ones that would be joining the arts more than anybody else. It was just giving them the emotional and social support they needed, and I was amazed at that.
That's
I didn't
phenomenal.
expect that.
So what she shared was that about 45% of the kids in the school where she worked, or who were have poverty and other things going on in their lives, that the arts were something that really provided the support that they needed. And I should mention that we've had, thanks to our education director, Lindsay Pontius, we've had a really robust outreach into schools for the past 10 plus years. And there's no barrier to access. Kids are learning with teaching artists, and then they come and they all have this big culminating Shakespeare show where they've created original songs with a musician that are more contemporary and learn about language and literacy and all of the things. So it's, and another thing, since you brought up access, I'd like to say is that we have something called the Katie Fund, and the Katie Fund allows us to give scholarships, both for education, but also ticket subsidies. So really, no one is ever turned away if they can't afford a ticket. If they want to pay a little bit or they can't pay it at all, we subsidize that. And that's something a fund we're looking to continue to build as we become bigger and busier, and we feel like it's very important. Any other questions?
Can I just say, one thing that I've been concerned about for a while now is your accessibility to the blind and deaf. I've been to one show that was, 6 years ago, when we experimented with a audio description, and that was great, except the signal didn't work very well in the theater. But do you have any plans at all for trying to make shows more accessible to the visually impaired as well as blind and, hearing impaired as well?
Yeah, we have talked about that. We have had sign language interpreters for shows, and I think we feel like we very much would like to do that, and I would like to connect more so I can learn more about the best way and resources and ways that we can help and make it a great experience. So if you wouldn't mind sharing your contact, if you wouldn't mind working with me on that, I'd love it. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
What has surprised you about this new building?
In a good way? Well, okay, so I guess I'm very pleased that the sizes feel like they meet our needs. When you're drawing something and then you're building something, you're not really sure when you walk into it three-dimensionally, is it actually going to be what we thought? And we do feel like, in fact, some rooms were like, this is more generous than we realized, and that feels incredible. I think we're kind of finishing up the building project. It's not probably a secret, we had some elevator issues early on just with it working, but we've got those sorted out now. And I understand there's always something like that in a project, so if I didn't have something. But I'm delighted by the way it's coming together, and I'm excited for for all of the finishing touches to continue to come in and make it feel really warm and inviting.
I just add one comment.
Yes.
We're so fortunate to live where we live and have so much like this today.
And yes, I so agree. We're so fortunate to live where we live and have so much like this available.
I just want to say that you've given a beautiful, thorough presentation. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
It's obvious you're a writer.
Just seen the ones that killed, they were just way over the top. Thank you. Yes.
Thinking about the future, thank you so much for that presentation. It's amazing. And I'm just wondering, thinking about the future and inevitable cuts in funding for the arts that may be coming at a federal level or a state level, what do you imagine how you might have to shift here?
Yeah, I think a few things. So I think we're looking more toward, well, these spaces are our main goal, right? So being able to have private events and things like that here will help us as well, because our mission will always be the arts, and that will always be the core of what we're doing, as is learning and engagement. But it doesn't pay the bills always. So event rentals will help with that. And also, we're just sort of turning our attention more toward foundations, privately funded grants rather than federal grants. Although I have to say, the head of the Arts Council said to us that we better keep applying to the NEA or it might not exist in 4 years, which made me feel like I absolutely need to apply. Yeah. Anybody else?
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much.